I know you said that's coming December 14th, but I thought I'd get out ahead of it, and see if you want to talk about this. I mean, when you say the Earth is fragile, okay, is the peace agreement, is the ceasefire a little fragile right now?
Oh yeah, it is. In fact, Netanyahu said that any violation of the peace agreement, of that ceasefire, he would respond with force. So there we are with that. And there has been some exchanges of fire, so it's already starting to crumble. It's just that Hezbollah, they really can't be trusted. They can't do that. And there are multiple groups within Hezbollah, right? And so just because they have a ceasefire with one of the groups of Hezbollah does not ensure that somebody else won't take advantage of it. These guys there's something else.
Well, during the time, we took out, I think, about the top 13 ranking. I mean, we took out the top guy who was in charge of Hezbollah for 32 years, and we took out the political leader of them, and then we took out like a bunch more. I mean, like the top 13 guys are dead. So who's running the show? And like you said, there's different factions of Hezbollah, right?
Yeah. And that really ignites when you destroy. The bad part about a group like that, when you cut off the head, more pop up. There are ambitious people who just pop up, and they will take that command. Now, Biden and Macron have gotten together, and they have made a statement that they would ensure a ceasefire. And they mean militarily too, right? Boy, we're in it. That could get very ugly quite quickly.
So Macron is always in the middle of this. Can we talk about that? Why? I mean, Dr. Irvin Baxter, back when he was alive, and I remember interviewing him in 2018 on television at that time, and he said to me, I asked him, I said, "Can you do you have a top 10 list of who could be the Antichrist?" And he said, "Oh yeah, there's 10 guys I'm watching. Of course, we still don't know," he said, "but keep your eye on Macron." And here he is. He's brokering the ceasefire. He's everywhere.
He's very ambitious. He is everywhere. And it reminds me, I guess, this Babylon's hour, right? That's a deep spiritual thing that I just, I can't shake it, right? And it kind of reminds me of the of Revelation 17, in fact, a certain view of Revelation 17.
Well, let's hear that, because I've read it. Well, I've read it twice, and before you came on, I've read Revelation 17. So let's hear it. Yeah, talk about that.
And please, for everybody out there, I am not, don't stick to my view to anything, right? I just have certain things in my heart. So
go ahead.
This woman, right?
Yeah.
This woman that sits atop the beast. I'm gonna read one small fragment of Revelation 17.
All right.
Because it helps to explain something. And he says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they have no kingdom as of yet, but they receive power as kings 1 hour. These have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb. The Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords, King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are the peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Here's the thing. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God should be fulfilled. And the woman that thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So I thought about that. I said, well, why in the world, the beast, all these elements that make up the beast, they hate this woman. And so I kind of looked a little deeper into the woman. She's drunken with the blood of the saints, right?
Yes, she is.
And when you start reading those descriptions, I know a lot of people have their ideas, right? I know they do.
Yes.
One thing I want to point out is that the beast hates her. Now, that means somebody has no placement. Let me explain. In the Bible already says in the New Testament that the mystery of iniquity doth already work.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
This woman has mystery Babylon on her forehead, which means it's a hidden Babylon. It's not obvious. Nobody can see it. But the beast hates her. How can the beast hate such a, ugly character, whatever that? And then that's when the Lord showed me let's just say some pieces came to me. The woman, now this is just my idea. This is mine. The woman is the fallen state of this world. The woman is.
Okay.
The blood of the martyrs of Jesus Christ in combination with, the one that reigns over the kings of the earth. She reigns by way of sin. She's drunken with the blood of the martyrs because it was the fallen state of Jerusalem that killed Jesus. It was not the righteous state.
Oh, that's true.
Just like us. It's
Yeah.
the sin it's almost like a duality, the sinful part of something. That's why the beast hates her. But the world operates by what? By the sinful part of what could be righteous. That's right.
So let me ask you.
You know what I tell people all the time?
Yeah.
I don't know about them, but since day one, my life has been under persecution.
Amen.
I don't know
I don't know why they're not being persecuted, because we've been dealing with it for years. All right, Mike, let me ask you this question. Here we go. Okay, China. Let's talk about China, Russia, and the Middle East, and America. Okay, Trump's coming in. There's definitely a change of the guard. That's a spiritual change too. It's not just don't you agree? It's not just a governmental change.
It is.
But what's this deal with this Chinese ship dragging an anchor for 100 miles, destroying these cables that went from Sweden to Lithuania and from Norway to Germany, just destroying the fiber optic cable communications? And then it's a Chinese ship that did it, but it's a Russian captain.
Yeah.
Mike.
Well, I am highly skeptical. Here's why.
Okay.
About a week ago, right, there was chatter that Russia was planning something by way of the oceans. Russia was. So there was a bulletin sent out of this very thing, and then all of a sudden this happens, right? Is that a coincidence?
Wow.
And to drag an anchor 100 miles. First of all, when a ship moves, these modern day ships, right?
Right.
There are safety mechanisms on these ships.
Right.
When you drop an anchor, the ship knows that anchor.
Lights and bells go off, right?
I mean, bells and whistles. Can tell you,
yeah,
because it can tell you the depth of the anchor.
Right.
You have a machine that will count the length of that chain, and it will tell you the depth of the anchor. To drag it 100 miles, well, first of all, if it snags something when you're doing that, those engines,
grind.
That ship would. That's right, they would. If it has isopods on there, they're going to turn into a specific direction. You're going to have high revs and RPM. You're going to have corrective measures, and certain alarms will go off. There's no way they did not notice that. One person can drive that whole ship. And that ship, even if it's set on autopilot, would give one of those critical alarms, especially about the anchor. I don't see how the boat could go forward with the anchor dropped.
I don't either.
I just don't see that. I don't see that, because I know for a fact those ships have certain safety protocols in them. Well, that ship is not going to move with that anchor unless you do what's called that deals with a port override. So somebody at the port who has the highest, enough authority can override that. But it was out to sea, right? It was out to sea. So
right.
I personally believe that Russia, and I know they laughed when they blamed it on them, but Russia, there was an intel report out not more than a week ago, and a bulletin concerning Russia and movements in the ocean.
Yes.
And then this happens. And so I as they investigate, they're going to come out with further things, but to cut those communication lines would deeply, give Russia an advantage. That's one of the main communication ports of NATO, or communication fiber lines of NATO. Yep. And they have a redundant line also. That's how important it is. It's not just one line. It's a couple lines out there. Right?
Thank God
There's
for
a
that.
redundancy line. But there's something afoot. Putin launched an ICBM, right, with
Yes, he did.
hypersonic warheads
Yes, he
that
did.
nobody can stop. And one of the top engineers for us informed everybody that we cannot intercept that.
Really?
If he shot one off, then we can't do anything with that. Yeah, we can't do anything with that. And so Putin did that as a warning shot across the bow. He's not playing games.
Amen.
He already said if we launch our missiles, then he will start to attack NATO, because what he sees is NATO becoming aggressive, right? Making steps towards their ultimate goal of surrounding him. He's not going to have that. And so there's also another security bulletin that he could potentially be doing that at a much closer target. So, we'll see how that unfolds. I also believe that this ceasefire is to throw Putin off.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Wait,
you're talking about the ceasefire in the Middle East?
Yes, I do.
It's to throw off Putin.
Not.
Okay.
I don't believe it's genuine. I think this is a move. This is clearly a move to subvert some activities of Russia. Just about 4 days ago, Russia had moved some of his assets into the Middle East, right? He was talking to Turkey a lot. He was talking to several different, nations out there, and then all of a sudden they call for a ceasefire after all this time, right? And it's barely holding, so something else is happening. They just can't outright inform the public of what they're doing, so they need some sort of, cooperative.
Let me ask you this, Mike: Is Biden administration working also with the incoming Trump administration through this process? I mean, they got to. Is the lines of communication open here? I mean, we don't have Biden doing one thing and Trump doing another, do we? Is there some kind of...
No. So far, Biden is working with him, but it doesn't matter if Biden works with him. Here's the problem. They're rogue individuals in this nation, right? They are not happy about the election decision with Trump. They are standing in the way at every single turn. They don't want Trump to have intelligence briefs, or the right ones. They certainly don't want him, doing specific things, because they don't want the transfer. And these people are they're just not happy, right? They're not happy at all. So you may as well think of Biden as being he's going through formalities, right? The true power source.
It's Trump.
Not Biden at all.
It's Trump.
It's just not Biden at all. And then some of the interference, Biden has no idea. Have you ever noticed throughout his presidency, things happened in the Biden administration that Biden did not even know?
He didn't even know it was happening.
That happened all throughout his administration. So it points towards another controlling faction behind, that seat in his case. But that Trump is moving ahead as fast as he can. Now, will he make it there on time? Only the Lord knows. I'm hopeful.
What about
some sort?
What about all of his men? Okay, Pete Hegseth, they threatened to blow up his place. He's got 7 little kids asleep, and they had to wake him up on Thanksgiving morning. And Stefanik, she's been threatened. Zeldin, he's been threatened. The chief of staff, she's been threatened. There's 10 or 12 of his key people. Mm-hmm. There's threats. There's assassination threats. There's bombing threats. Where's this coming from? Is this from a centralized group that's doing this coordinated effort to try to bring fear and distraction? What's your thoughts on this?
To be honest, there's a group out there. They're essentially untouchable. But these individuals acting on this, here's what to watch for. Who has come out to denounce it?
Nobody.
Has anybody taken steps?
Nobody.
To publicly denounce it? So there you go. It's very difficult sometimes to name exactly what subsidiary organization is doing this out of the one organization, but when they don't denounce anything, they're complicit with it, period.
Yeah, you're right.
They're complicit with it. And so that shouldn't be. This whole thing is far too violent. There are too many civilians involved. Northcom is they're receiving special orders. There's special amendments as far as national security and civilian security and containment. There are protocols that are being put in place just so if civilians get out of control, right? Of course, everybody saw the DOD memo, right? That DOD memo emphasizes some of the powers of Northcom and some of the powers of Southern Command dealing with controlling civilians, which means the DOD can essentially take charge of local, we're talking about at the state level, local
Talk about this, because I talked about this.
Implement preventive security, right? So long as it's a reasonable threat, right? All they have to do is establish it's a reasonable threat. They can take charge of local law enforcement.
Who is the deal? I mean, is we talking U.S. military?
Department of Defense is the head of the head, right? That's the head of the head. So these are the folks who run. They run it all. So they're over everything. They pay the money for the veterans also. If the DOD gets operational command authority over these civilian, individuals, oh boy, that essentially means one person can be at the helm, and clear the order to fire for effect. Speaking of killing someone, they can use lethal force, and they give that command to use lethal force. Now, here's the contingent: if it's a reasonable threat. Okay. That's even worse. Here's what that means.
What's that mean?
It could be a day like today. Nothing is happening. Some intel group or something like that, or somebody reports something happening, or a person is about to do something, or a group is about to do something. By that paperwork, that's a reasonable threat. Now they're going to determine if that threat is reasonable or not, and if it is, well, then they can give the order to terminate it, to kill it, to stop it, and use lethal force doing it. That's what that means. That means if anybody up there gets nervous too much, well, they qualify that as a
reason,
a qualified threat. Right?
Yep.
It doesn't mean that the person may not have a weapon. It just simply means if they suspect a threat could come from a specific,
that's pretty vague,
area or person, they can go forward and.
That's real vague.
That's exactly what that establishes, because everybody knows that after the event takes place, then in court you validate, right? You validate that precept. Only after you've already
not before. Not before. This isn't Minority Report.
So essentially that's what they're going to do. If they suspect it, they're going after it now. But here's the danger part. Suppose they don't act on that, right?
All right.
President Trump gets into power, and he didn't, clarify the language or anything. He's only going to be in power for 4 years.
4 years.
And here's what I'm watching for. When he's in office for 4 years, no matter what he does, he can easily enable some tyrant that comes behind him to exercise authorities he's putting in place, or that he, fails to undo before he gets out of office. I'm very wary of that because there's some shady people in this world. There's certainly some shady people that will be found out in his circle that probably shouldn't be there. But these people are famous for taking a good idea, something that was meant to protect people, and turning it into a weapon. They can easily weaponize anything that passes.
You're right, Mike.
And so that's something to watch for.
No matter how pure the intent that Trump may have, and no matter how selective he is in trying to get the right people, there is going to be people in his camp, no matter what, down the line somewhere, who are going to be trying to help put in controlling mechanisms so that when the next guy gets in, he can utilize these loopholes to further a whole different agenda. The government's just too big. There's too many things. There's no way that you can protect that. I mean, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Satan always has this way to pervert any good thing. I think that people are going to find, well, they're probably already finding that out. As of late, spiritually, I can almost guarantee a lot of people their good intentions have been taken the wrong way. It's almost like the spirit of offense has doubled in the world, right? A person's intent to do something good is easily mistaken for something offensive or bad. No matter how much you explain to the person that you didn't mean it that way, they won't hear anything. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Same thing with laws. People come in there, they will pervert any law that they see that they can utilize for their own personal advantage. They'll do so, and these people they seemingly multiplied in the earth.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about this then, Mike. This we're dealing with a ceasefire that looks very weak. Okay, apparently on December 14th. If it's the Babylon, you're saying let's call this the Babylon hour. Is there something going to happen? Is there a meeting going to take place? Is there some kind of deadline that's due that is bothering you about this December 14th?
Well, there's some before that, Pastor Paul.
Okay.
There are some things around that season.
Okay.
If they don't, well, let's put it this way. After December 14th, if certain steps, especially in the Middle East, if they don't work, we're going to have some stuff spread across this world pretty quick. There are nuclear powers in the Middle East.
Okay.
Nuclear powers. These nuclear powers are shady at best, right? There's one nuclear power. I can't say the name, forgive me for that, but if they lose their country, they're at risk of losing their country from forces within the Middle East. If they lose their country, then those who take it will have that nuclear power.
That's not good.
And they're not going to hesitate to utilize it. Keep in mind, these Middle Eastern people, they want to kill themselves against the West or against Israel. They want to. That's their way. That's their way to heaven. They want to do this. And they will do it.
Okay,
right?
so you got you got to worry a little bit. We got some. I don't know if you're talking about Pakistan or one of these countries, but let's take Pakistan for a minute because, I mean, the capital of Pakistan's been on lockdown. They've been in martial law for like over a week. Pakistan's got some nukes, Mike. They got some nukes out there. I mean, and I'm not sure if that's who you're talking about, but I mean, that's the kind of country that you got to watch out. I mean, they got like 200 nukes, something like that. I mean, who takes over those? If somebody takes over India or over Pakistan, or
they already have people waiting. India tried to set up, get military personnel in strategic places, but Iran's going to make sure they never are able to do that. So Iran is right there.
I know, Iran. I know.
Right there waiting. They get a hold of those.
They'll use them.
Over.
They'll use them on. They'll use them on Israel if they think they can, or United States.
They're going to hit us both.
Yeah.
They'll hit us both, and they'll probably do so in combination because Putin understands something that, given the current speed of things, NATO is taking up positions around his country. They're doing it anyway.
Oh, I know.
That's what Macron has been doing.
Yeah, I know.
Right? He's doing it anyway.
Yep.
Putin already said it, and he's not bluffing. This time, this is not rhetoric. He's not giving them rhetoric. He's telling them what he's going to do. Right? He's got people worried even tonight, Pascal, because this guy, that last ICBM, people didn't see that coming.
No.
Well, what about 14 more?
No, nobody.
You can actually see when these things go live.
When you say 14,
when they start up.
So in other words, you have to get these things geared up and ready to go to launch.
Yes, you do.
And we know when that happens, right?
That's right.
So you're saying he's got 14? He's got 14 right now. He's gearing up.
Yes. Yeah.
That would devastate the world. If he went nuclear with them, if he went nuclear with them, he would devastate the world or United States.
Well,
who's he aiming at?
They don't fire anything else, and he can easily reach us in about 3 minutes.
Can we shoot it out of the sky?
No, we cannot.
Would it detonate over us like an EMP? It
would launch the bus. The bus is that capsule full of eight warheads. that travel at hypersonic speeds, they can hit 8 different targets.
8 cities?
One warhead can hit 8 different countries.
Or 8 cities in America.
Yeah, or 8 cities.
That'd be
so
it.
The only thing we could do, the only response to that is mutual destruction, right? That's why we've been, everybody's been working so hard on this, the laser grid, getting all that set up. That's the only defense you have for hypersonics, laser grids. Russia has demonstrated they can get through our air defenses. That ICBM air defense was against it. Nothing worked.
So we got to work on laser. We got to come up with
nothing worked.
Star
We've been
Wars.
doing that in combination with Israel. That's been priority for some time now. So that has to be done.
So let me ask you: if Russia's got 14 that they're moving and getting ready to activate, not that they're going to shoot them, but they're getting, they're online. Do we got 14 online too? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, well, we had things online
already.
We have things online.
Yeah,
but that's not, that's all we can do.
That's not going to solve any. Right, that's not going to solve anything. That's going to be.
Exactly.
It's just going to destroy the world.
It could be the reason I can't shake this feeling that somebody's going to have a Chernobyl moment.
Oh.
Somebody's going to have a meltdown moment. Okay. Somebody's going to have a meltdown.
Okay.
Moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and the hour of Babylon's coming. It's going to fall in one day, 1 hour. Okay, so let me ask you a question now. So we're in this moment where everybody's on edge. NATO, Russia, China, Taiwan's nervous, the whole Middle East, United States.
Yes.
Trump has made a statement about the 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, so he's upset about these borders. Mexico has jumped out. The lady, she's the president of Mexico. She's saying, "Whoa, calm down. We're going to help you. We're going to help you. Don't even." Is this again part of the Trump doctrine? America first. Seal our borders. It's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, the wall's going up too. It's a giant deal. It's a giant deal.
What about Canada?
You know what? They're going to play this carefully. They understand that they can't survive without us, right? And we know for a fact that there are compromises in certain parts of Canada.
It's coming across. They're coming across the border. I mean,
yeah.
So what about Mexico? Is Mexico going to send their army up there? What about the drug cartel? I mean, aren't they going to want to run this? Who are they going to fight? Both of us, Mexico and America?
They're crafty, and because they have to work. They're going to have to do a lot of work on the East Coast now. The USA will. After once Texas and all those places are secure at the southern border, we've got to watch the coastlines, and it's unfortunate. These container ships, I'll say it again, they come in packed full of people. They come in packed full of people. There have been people who have walked off the job because they saw people packed in those containers, and they said no, they just walked off the job. That's happening more and more. But that's what we faced.
Aren't they going to come in California? Won't they come into California that way, as well as New York?
Yeah, but that's a bit harder. Okay. California's a bit harder because of it's a bit harder. But I'm glad somebody made the statement because they've already here's what's bad, Pascal. When somebody, if you were in a war-torn country, and you knew that somebody had very lax rules at their border, right? If you wanted your family safe. And you just say you were honest. If you wanted your family safe, your kids safe, wouldn't you send them to that country? I know I would. I'd send them out of that danger zone into another place.
Yes, I would.
So when a country does not secure its border, when it has no clear message, sometimes you have decent people who will send their children to the USA only to be used. To bad stuff happens, but to make a statement means they'll not do it. They're not going to do it. They're saying, well, you can't go now. And that, that's saving a life. Just to make that statement has probably saved hundreds of thousands of lives.
Yes.
That quick. It really has.
Yeah. So
to be heartbroken when they reach the border and they can't get in, now they're stuck in Mexico, and we already know what's in Mexico.
You don't want to be stuck in Mexico.
No, because people are they're dying big time over in those areas. So to not secure a border is just highly irresponsible. It's a bad message to carry, and it kills people. It really does.
So what's your biggest concern now, Mike, with everything happening?
Pastor Paul, I can't shake the nuclear issue.
Yeah, you've had that 2 or 3 weeks.
I can't shake that. I can't shake it. I can't shake that. You know what? It's almost like spiritually, you know, something is going to take place. You can't do anything about it but pray, right?
Yeah.
And it gets worse. It just gets, it's louder. I guess you could say it's louder. It's like a threat. Doesn't mean it's absolutely going to happen. No, I'd say every time I've had some sort of impression like this upon my spirit, a decision is being made, and based on that decision, there's an outcome. Both are unavoidable, but one is not as bad as the other. I think in this case, the outcome could be quite devastating. It really could be. I look at countries like the UK. They have a very weak policy as far as sometimes nations get so prideful. They will not increase their own personal defense of certain facilities in their own countries. France, they have the same problem. They're target number one. Things are happening in Germany already, in Europe already. And so these threats they're not decreasing, they're increasing. It's almost like everybody is trying to make a move before Trump gets into office.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know when he gets into office, he won't hesitate to use whatever he has at his disposal to kind of minimize all this stuff. So they're going to do everything they can do prior to him getting in there. There's also been an outbreak tonight, I'll say, of Sunni and Shiite Muslims.
Where at? I mean, are we talking
everywhere? It's starting to happen everywhere. Sunni and Shiite Muslims are starting to have these confrontations where people die, confrontations both in the Middle East, in Europe, some in France. It's been a couple of incidences here in the USA. So it's starting to happen everywhere. It's almost spontaneous, I guess, if you will.
Well,
but something is happening in the Islamic world causing these confrontations.
Well, we know the Shiites and Sunnis don't like each other at all. But is somebody orchestrating this global confrontation?
That's very difficult to know. It just seems to be an outbreak.
Okay.
Nobody can definitively say there's been too much chatter here. This person put it out. This time there was no chatter. It just broke out. It could be because of the times we live in, but even that will start to increase.
Now you mentioned. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say with this, when they called for this ceasefire, it's almost like it put pressure on everybody to make up their mind what direction they're going into.
I see what you're saying. Okay, now you've mentioned Chernobyl a couple of times. You're really upset about this. You're very you're in your spirit. You're very concerned.
Yeah.
And
yes, sir.
So as we go in the next, Trump is not in office yet. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of movement going on. Turkey's getting very active. Is that true? Are they moving assets? Is there something going on with Turkey?
Yeah, they have been. They have been, and they are a wild card. It's very difficult to know what Turkey is actually going to do, but they are a wild card. And they're talking to Putin too much. Some of these nations are talking to Putin too much. They're coordinating too much. Remember, Putin has equipment on the coast in Syria, and he has traded assets with Turkey on a couple of that was when our Air Force base was fully stocked there too. So he's a wild card.
Really,
he really is. And because everything is so, I guess, in the Muslim world, their time is close too. According to their end of days proclamations.
Does Planet X, is there anything happening here? I mean, because a lot of times there's stuff goes on the earth between humanity, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the heavens, the heavenlies, and we seem to be seeing a tremendous change in weather, crazy stuff. Is there anything going on with this gravitational pull, the coming meteorites you've talked about in the past? Is there anything new?
They're still coming, and they're still coming. And I hope that folks I really hope they're prepared to deal with some very unnatural phenomena. Very unnatural phenomena.
Okay.
Unnatural phenomena. I hope they're ready for that.
Whoa.
In fact, this time that we live in is probably not the time for people to become experts on what does not exist or what would not happen, but to remain sober and to realize something that over the course, even in the past, this whole earth was blanketed in darkness for years.
That's true.
For years, not a couple of days, but years. And this has been since Christ. And we're about to go back into that cycle. This cycle is outside of any of the other cycles we've discussed. There's another cycle that they found out back in the 1200s. It was a meteor storm, Pastor Paul, and there were impacts on this planet. Do you not know that they believe that time is coming back around again? Now this is outside.
This is outside the binary
that
system.
Wide. That's right. This is outside of that. This is a cycle that they now believe has come back again. Now the clusters they're talking about, this is outside of the meteor storm that's in that they're expecting. So we could be on a cycle right now that's outside of every other cycle we ever thought of. The earth has, it just messed us up for a time. There was darkness all over the earth for a few years, and that's coming around again, right? They went back after studying some of the temperatures, taking multiple cores from many different places. They believe that this cycle is back again. They believe it's back again. And if it's back, it's just like a comet. A comet will leave, do what it does, and then come back again, right?
Right.
Same thing with this cycle. It's the same way we have the 4 seasons, but there are other long durational cycles. Some cycles we don't even know about until they come. So they believe this cycle is coming back again. And there will be, I'm sure, everybody out there is going to have a lot on that subject, because I'm sure this topic is going to come up with the tree rings and how many years we were in the darkness and how the earth was full of soot. And I know we're going to have to entertain that, but my goodness, not this. This cycle is just one of those unexpected ones. And then the unnatural phenomena, as far as the weather is concerned, Pastor Paul, we're at a tipping point. Where the atmosphere, the earth, temperature, storms, wind variations, we're at a tipping point. We have some of the numbers have just stumbled up to a point where it's like striking a match. If we go over the tipping point, the match is going to light, right? Matches are benign, by the way, where you don't strike them, but as soon as you strike them, they catch on fire. Well, we're at the same thing. So just imagine this. We had some pretty hot temperatures this year, right?
Yes.
Imagine temperatures at least, I say about 15 to 20 degrees hotter than what they normally are. Imagine crustal displacement escalating on the earth.
No, we don't want that. No.
And imagine, now I heard this twice. Can you imagine all the ice gone by the end of 2025?
No. That just, I don't even.
I heard that twice. I mean,
this is chatter being talked about. Scientists are involved.
I heard that twice. This wasn't chatter. This was, these are, let's say, solution finders. I've heard that twice. Can you imagine no ice by the end of 2025?
No. Well, first of all, what would it do? I mean, besides the water rising, wouldn't there be like major shifts on tectonic plates and stuff?
If the ice melts, right? For example, if the ice continues to melt like it did last year, if it melts that way in 2025, we're going to have obstructed patterns in the currents of the ocean, right? In the wrong places. When the ice melts, that water sinks right to the bottom. It helps to regulate temperatures, right? So the greater the ice melt, the hotter the spots we're going to have all over the planet.
Hotter.
It also releases oxygen.
Okay.
Right. That water in the ocean goes straight to the bottom. Straight to the bottom, and it actually helps to cool and slow down melt points in the crust of the surface of the earth where you have underwater volcanoes. It regulates the eruptive state of those things. If all the ice is gone, we're not going to have any more cold water going to the bottom to regulate these things. We won't have enough pressure. We won't have enough pressure to hold down certain points. We're going to have a land eruption from under the ocean. Should that happen, things are going to begin to boil pretty quickly,
That's what's
right? Things will get hot. So imagine the Gulf temperatures all throughout the Atlantic and the Pacific. We already have problems with temperatures in the Gulf, right?
yeah, getting
There's
hotter all the
also
time.
they're worried about an ignition in the Gulf, right? They're worried
Okay.
about that. So there could be, we'll probably have a couple of oil spills coming up, right? This and the end of this year happens to be the time on the oil rigs when salt water and everything else takes its toll on some of these rigs. So they won't be able to maintain specific things, right? Imagine some of those drill pipes burst or something like that. We're going to have an accident. The oil accidents, those accidents are cyclical. It comes from old equipment.
Okay.
Likewise, on the land, the same thing. If that ice melts, we're going to have saltwater intrusion. That's going to break our infrastructure from the inside out, right? It's, I'd say Texas is going to have to deal with some underground fires. So will Ohio and Pennsylvania, even more than they have now. They already told people in New Jersey the ground was on fire underneath. Nobody seems to be concerned about the fires that took place. Well, they caught coal on fire in New Jersey. They caught coal on fire in parts of Pennsylvania. That fire is still smoldering underneath. And just like Pennsylvania some years ago, some people are going to have to move out of the homes. You can't put those out once they're lit like that. You can't do it.
Because it just because underneath
keeps burning.
Keeps burning.
Keeps burning.
So
yep.
it's this crazy
and
time.
And right next to that, Passball, we have those two big gas pockets are down there. Those gas reservoirs.
Yep.
They're right next to the coal. If that coal burns, it's going to hit the gas reservoir, and then what? They can't put that out.
There ain't no way. It just keep
Right.
burning and burning and burning. So
they got to find a solution to that before what was it, mid-year next year or something like that, because it will certainly burn right into it.
So, and you said that we were going to have more weather events. I mean, you said we were going to have big water events, but we'd also have droughts. I've been noticing that we've had unbelievable flash flooding this year. I mean, the floods this year around the world have been off the chain like we've never seen. Just yesterday or the day before, it snowed in South Korea, in Seoul, the biggest snowstorm in 50 years. Then we'll turn around, we'll have wildfires burning in New Jersey, and then we turn around, we have hail, so unbelievable hail in Saudi Arabia, and then in the Sahara Desert, there's rivers flowing basically of water. I mean, this is some really weird stuff, Mike. It's stuff that's
it's increasing.
Yeah, I mean, it's way out of balance. It's the earth like reeling and rocking, and you've been talking about, and BP Earthwatch has been talking about the earth tilting. Okay, this tilt.
Yep.
Is there any news on that's going on?
Yeah, it's still going. It's still going to go. It's still going to do its thing. Eventually, we're going to lose our. We're getting used to all this abnormal weather, right? It's going to continue to get abnormal. We're going to have different days. The sun's going to be in different positions, right? People will see clearly.
Yeah.
A whole nother thing up there here shortly. Not that little thing either. Imagine. I'll say it again, because people will see it. They will see, now this is going to sound nuts, but they will see an object about half the size of the sun. They're going to see it possibly every month.
Okay, is there a certain time of the month that it becomes visible? Like during a full moons or what's going on here?
No, they'll see it in the daytime.
Yeah, is it like as the sun is setting or is the sun rising? Is that or just middle of the day? Or what?
No, they'll start seeing it just, it'll be out 1 week and then they won't see it again for another month, and it'll be out another week. They won't see it for 1 month because we have large scale celestial changes. I mean, large scale. I'm sure that if Elon and all those guys make it, Elon will inform. People better get ready, because I'll tell you something. I already know they're going to inform people about things that are shocking. Okay,
so we're going to
inform people about things shocking
in the heavens.
People want the truth. They want the truth.
Yeah,
they're going to get the truth, but the truth is not going to be as easy as they think, right? And a lot of naysayers, you know how naysayers come up, it's not real, and this, that, and the other.
Right.
I think they're frightened. They're going to be twice as frightened when these guys are speaking. And then when they begin to see it every single day, it's just going to mess the
So
world.
what's up with Zuckerberg? I mean, now he showed up in Mar-a-Lago. What's going on? Everybody's coming. Is there fear? Are they afraid of the new changes? They want to make sure they're on the right team. I mean,
Well, they don't drink the Kool-Aid that people do, right? They're on a whole different level. Look, Elon Musk is, believe it or not, Elon Musk has is he misunderstood? Yeah, but this guy has a lot of care in his heart. He does. He's I know he seems weird in certain ways, but Elon Musk cares about the progress of people. He does. He cares about people progressing. And so Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to be left behind. Plus, Mark Zuckerberg has some breakthroughs.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Somebody said I was wearing a nice Rolex. I just want to let them see it. It's not a Rolex. But if you want to send one, we'd be glad to wear it. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, Mike. So go back to Elon Musk. Okay.
He's a very caring guy, and but he also has a lot of forward momentum. Right. Plus, he's going to be in charge of government waste and development in other areas.
Oh, is that going to get under somebody's? That's going to get under somebody's skin, isn't it? You start digging into government waste. Is that going to expose some serious
they're
fraud?
Going to expose quite a bit.
Okay.
They're going to expose quite a bit.
I'll go back to Zuckerberg.
Basically, think about all the things that people. There's some things that people don't know. I think it's good. Because they will level the playing field a bit. But here's the deal. I had to give a caution on this.
Okay.
They're going to be fighting a body that is powerful. Right? It's almost like, it'd almost be like me going to fight the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay. What are we talking about here, Mike? You talk about government?
That's what I'm saying. Because they're going up against people who run everything. Think about this. I'll tell you this. Most of these things, have you ever noticed how it'll look like something in the world should take place, but then it doesn't? And when you think nothing could possibly happen to something else, it does. Well, you have people, right, who manage things in this world. People that manage things in this world. And these people that manage things in this world, they get exactly what they want. We're not talking about the Bilderbergs. That's like the Girl Scouts, I guess you could say.
Wow. Really? Okay.
We're talking about the folks who dictate. Let's just say they dictate where money goes and what it does. And anybody who has that money, right, that they often end up exactly where and how these guys say they're going to end up. These guys are deeply rooted. They're going to have to fight some real dark things. I mean, darkness that the average person doesn't know about. They're going to go right up against it, which is why saints, hopefully they're praying, because we all know that anybody who goes up against darkness, if they're not covered by the blood of the Lamb, they have no cover. They have no defenses. And what they're going up against is just no joke. No joke.
So, I always hear about the 13, somebody just mentioned it, it's perfect. The 13 families, we always hear about these, the puppet masters and the people.
Yeah.
There is people there. I mean, there really is a group of people.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very powerful.
You betcha. And they get, whatever direction these guys want to take, they simply take that direction. And which is why the world, no matter what anybody does, the world gets worse and worse and more. It is so much iniquity around, and it's highly immoral. Everything is highly immoral.
Oh, I know.
And it's almost like people have become accustomed to it. Because I'm going to say this, who can introduce some of the immoral things that we've had to where nobody can see it, but it's all around us? Everybody's afraid to say anything against it. You don't see protest against that. You don't see not one protest against any of this iniquitous stuff.
No.
You don't see it.
We only get
not?
We get anti-Semitic protests.
That's right. That's it. But you never have a protest against immorality. How can that be possible with all these folks who believe in Christ? How can there be no protest?
I don't know. That's a great point.
Because these guys are in cahoots with what's called the king of the world, I guess you could call it. king of the world. And everybody's going to get their introduction into something else. I'm sure that Trump is going to have to fight a fight. Maybe he didn't believe it was going to be like that, but it's going to be a real
fight, something he ain't never seen.
Real fight. A real fight.
Is the Sand King still out there? You remember you mentioned that?
Yes, he is. The Sand King is in operation. Okay. He's doing his thing, Pastor. We're at a very late hour, believe it or not, right? Yeah. You know that one scripture in the Bible which states, I know a lot of people read it one way, but it states that Jesus was talking about Noah's flood. And he specifically said, they were eating, drinking, marrying, given into marriage until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also, right, it's going to be that way at the coming of the Son of Man. And they knew not till the flood came and took them all away. He didn't mention anything else. He said they knew not until the flood came and took them all away.
Right.
Which automatically lets me know that the world is going to normalize every condition until Christ comes. The desecration of Jerusalem, they're going to normalize things.
Oh, man.
Right? They'll try that. What happened with things that have happened here in this country? They normalized it. Yep. I remember when they had that earthquake in Turkey and 70,000 died. I said, folks, don't forget this, because this is a devastating thing. But I said, unfortunately, a couple of weeks from now, nobody is going to talk about it, and it's almost like something is just wiping it out of people's minds. It's not important anymore, right?
No.
How can we normalize ourselves? And it does remind me of the days of Noah, because I can often imagine people getting used to drops of rain. Oh, it's just raindrops, no big deal. It keeps coming and gets heavier. We'll just go to higher ground. And they keep doing their thing until the waters were up to their noses and they couldn't breathe. Then they said, well, this is a bad situation. That's the same way the world works. Until it takes them, they won't know anything. They're going to normalize everything.
Normalize it. Yep.
They will. The weather right now has increased an untold percentage, Pastor Paul.
Yeah, but it's normalized.
By the trend line we're on, it's going to be a lot of people sick by fall of 2025. Just sick. The radiation scales, the radiation we've been exposed to by the sun, because the sun's chemistry is changing. Yeah. It's going to get us.
Pets are dying right now. Mike, pets seem to be dying at a larger rate. Is it because the radiation's killing them first before it kills us? I mean, is there something going on here? I mean, cancer among pets.
Pets are sensitive to, well, I'll tell you something. Chernobyl, again, right?
Yeah.
Leaked radiation all around the world, right?
Yeah. Fukushima did.
Radiation detectors still go off at I believe it's 2 rings around this earth, and 2 of those rings pass right through America. So certain areas have radiation doses, which are, by the way, cumulative. The sun's chemistry is changing.
Oh, big time.
So the radiation from the sun is penetrating the atmosphere, coming to the surface of the earth, causing the pricklies on people's skin. No matter how hot it used to get, nobody can ever remember going out in the sun and it feels like you're being poked by 1,000,000 needles, right?
No.
But you can feel it now, and that's going to continue to change. The UV scales, it seems like somebody went back and calibrated all of the detectors to suit some of the new levels that we have. And it's just incredible. So people out there in the sunlight, they're exposing themselves to some bad conditions. Right? Dogs are getting sick because they're more sensitive to it. They're also sensitive to magnetite. They're also sensitive to magnetic waves. And as the earth continues to change, they're going to feel it. They go nuts right before earthquakes do, right? So we have a whole other round of eruptions that are about to take place, and some pretty devastating earthquakes due to tectonic shifting that has caused these upwells in certain places in the USA, Asia, Russia, all around the world, right? Plus, large land masses are just changing, period. Some are sinking. They won't be here anymore. New land masses will be seen in the Atlantic.
When we think about this, Hal Lindsey passed away. We've been talking about that some, and it's sad. 95 years old, though. He was, he wrote The Late Great Planet Earth, which really affected people, made people start looking at least at the reality that the Bible and prophecy was in process. And so he was a great man of God, and he was a tremendous writer. And so may he rest in peace, and I hope one day to meet him in heaven. Is just a wonderful man and family. Mike, while we're dealing with all these things, and I don't want to take you too much more of your time, but the alien thing, you talk. First of all, the interview with you on this webinar was so unbelievable. I actually went back and listened to it a second time after we taped it. It was just so good. Is this? Are we at a different time? I mean, what I'm trying to say is, it's like we've never been here before. It feels like some of the things we talked about 10 years ago is now happening right now, accelerated. Is there a reason? I mean, is there a spiritual? Okay, we're talking about spiritual warfare, but it's happening not only in the heavens but on the earth too. It's like a combination, and you shared some incredible information. They should listen to this, and then they should learn from what you're talking about and the others. Would you agree?
No, I would. We do. We live in different times, Pastor. We live in a time of where everything is starting to manifest. People actually are facing consequences from, I hate to say it, but consequences of prophecy themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to see prophecy unfold. It's going to take effect on their lives, whether they believe in it or not. It will take effect in their lives.
Yeah.
And humanity, by the way, we are in the time where the hidden element won't be hidden anymore. And that's going to be a very tough time. It's going to be a tough time. Now, kids are adapted to deal with it. Kids are.
Yeah.
But like you said, Hal Lindsey passed away, right? Pastor, there's a whole generation that's gone.
Yes, I know. We lost some.
And before they left, right before they went, I remember talking to Angela about this a long time ago. I said, you know what? When this generation is gone, we're going through it. But God will get them. They'll be gone first. They're not to go into this other place we're going into.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Lord took a very specific generation because they were not sent here to go through what we're about to go through.
Yeah.
And we're past the door. We're in this time. So it'll be some pretty, and we're at the tail end of a generation that was born with prophecy in us. I'm highly confident that most of your audience could connect with the book of Revelation when they first heard the word revelation. They knew something. They knew the earth was degrading. They knew conditions were degrading.
Yes.
But they couldn't accept that we were going to have a great big party. They knew something was wrong. And I would say that most of your audience probably they're born with this identification of prophecy in them. So we're in that generation that really, we identify with. In fact, without prophecy, what job, what task would we have? That's what gets us on fire, lights us up. That's what charges us.
Right.
To identify that we're in a time of prophecy.
Yes.
We're not the folks that deny it, of course, but
no.
There's a whole generation. They knew about the prophecies, Pastor Paul.
Yes, they did.
But you could almost see that they couldn't live in the time where they would take place.
No, you're right.
They were not designated for that.
Their job was to identify it was coming.
Yeah.
And then the Lord said, okay, so Ken Clement, there goes Chuck Misler, there goes Jack Van Impe, there goes Dr. Baxter, there goes Hal Lindsey, there goes Billy Graham. There's this generation that's gone here in the last 10 years. And because they didn't have to go through, but we've been selected. It's like we've been selected to go through this process. We're here.
I know in my life I used to hear people say, "Oh, it's going to get better." I knew it was not. I used to hear them. There were times when I wanted to believe it, but there was something in me that said, "No, it's not. You better prepare." Right? And it's almost like all of us are on this true, honest pursuit of Christ.
Amen.
Not the hearsay Christ, but the real Christ.
I was talking to my dad today. He's 88. He's going on 89. He's tired, and so he takes a lot of naps. So I was sitting in the room with him, and he's taking one of his naps, and he wakes up after a nap, after about a 20-minute nap. He goes, "It's going to get worse and worse." I said, "What?" He just wakes up from a nap and says, "Oh," he said, it's going to get waxed worse and worse, Paul." You think it's going to get better? He said. I'm telling you, you haven't seen nothing yet. You haven't seen iniquity yet until you see iniquity. It's coming. It's going to get worse.
Yep, it sure is.
And then he goes
Pastor,
back.
there will.
He goes back to sleep. Well,
there'll come a time. There'll come a time very quickly. I give it less than 2 years.
Oh Lord.
Where women will walk down the street topless.
What? It'd be acceptable? Will this society say it's okay?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
In the Christian community, right? Yeah. We're in a Christian community, so we stay away from most things of the world, right?
Right.
Some of us have to see what the world is doing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And see which way it's moving. And I'm telling you, Pastor Paul, iniquity is just a word. For it to be in action is an abomination. But we're going to see it. Christians more and more, a lot of those who call themselves Christians, they can't hear cursing in the media or anything. They don't recognize curse words anymore. They're so used to it.
They become desensitized.
They don't respond to it. That's
We're
right.
desensitized.
They don't respond to it.
Yeah.
Nudity is becoming the same way. And these new kids, these new kids that are out there, a lot of these new kids, boy, they are highly prone to follow things that really capture their attention. It's almost like a whole generation has been set up to say yes to somebody who would come forward, who would fool them by way of, some exercising great authority and power, which is what, these kids, some of these kids today, I'm talking about the young kids. I'm talking about these kids they're about 11 and under right now. They are different children. They're very different children. The people
Their mind
that
don't
are
work
right
the
now,
same way. They don't think the same.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. They can't even identify what certain things we know about. We had natural knowledge, right? Nobody had to tell me that Jesus was Jesus. Nobody had to tell me that.
No.
I had a natural knowledge. These kids, they don't know what a microwave is. They'll look at that microwave. You used to go put something in there and they say, put it in what? How do you do that? They can't identify with certain things. And it almost like, I've seen that type behavior before, but in a survival generation.
Wow.
It's just like in human beings. There's been a migration gene that came about every time humanity had to migrate from one place to another. It's called a migration gene. And it doesn't come up every generation. It only comes up when humanity has to do something, right? These kids have other genes that we don't have, that have popped up there, activated all of a sudden. We're not talking about this higher consciousness nonsense, but we're talking about another type gene that's almost set for survival. They have it in them, fully activated. So it's almost like they're medical marvels also. But things are certainly happening. They're changing, and we just so happen to be in that generation. We'll see it. I believe we are in that transition.
I think you're right.
Generation.
It's a different world.
But it is. I know a lot of people have trepidation about a force coming in, right?
Yes.
Almost like a force that's going to do something against the will of the people. That's this undying thing that won't go away. Well, I'd say this. Hopefully people are rooted for real in Christ, because there will come a time